Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Friday, actually a holiday for us here in Utah, so I get it off, I guess. That's interesting. Well, let's see where we're at on the charts. Treasuries are on the up move here in the most recent action. Oh, let's not skip ahead here. Okay, so yesterday, kind of a little ugly in the treasuries, but you know what? For most of our session, it didn't really do very much. It was just kind of flat the rest of the session. They had already made their move. Now here in the overnight today, they have bounced back up in the treasuries. And well, over in the S&P 500, that yesterday was really bad. So this was really interesting. Remember that we traded in here, and we were expecting that because the overnight flow was so strong that we were probably going to see some mean reversion, but ultimately the selling would win out. And I would say that that is exactly what happened. Fortunately, my trading on it didn't work very well yesterday. Well, you know, that's okay. That is maybe just random anyways, right? But they did go lower, although it was still choppy in the end. We're a little bit higher here in the treasuries. And I think you've got to be a little bit nervous going into the weekend. Because, you know, like Donald Trump has to make the final decision on more extensive action in Iran. I think it's coming. And yeah. So you might see some of that going into the weekend. Here's oil. Oil is off of its highs. I mean, it was pretty gangbusters yesterday, but ultimately stalled out. Gold and silver recovering a little bit from that. Copper. Ugh. You know, this move up in copper was so good, so this move down really disappointing to me, honestly. The Japanese yen. Well, after that big kind of lurch lower, they've kind of been flat. So I guess that's good. But the dollar is a little bit on the rise. So yeah, and then Bitcoin, you know, they've taken a little bit of a decline, but nothing too big. We're day traders. Nobody is nervous. I think that I'm always nervous. I don't know. So it's kind of this interesting thing about like what people's personalities are. And how much of that is really just ingrained into us, like it's genetic. It seems to me that the majority of your like 6-factor personality traits might be innate. But there's beyond the 6 major personality traits, there's kind of this well, I guess one of them is how neurotic you are, right? How sensitive you are to negative emotions. And at work, we've kind of been a little bit in limbo, not knowing where the company is going to go. And yesterday we kind of found out. So now everybody's finding out. And it's really interesting because you're kind of going from an environment that is very much like we gotta fight to survive and kind of a little bit more of a startup mentality sort of a thing into something that is very consistent. Boring and consistent. And so you would think that a lot of people that didn't like all of the drama and the speculation and the uncertainty, that they would be happy about it, right? But it's a change. It makes you nervous, right? And those negative emotions come out, and you kind of get to see who is the most neurotic. The thing is, I think that I am very neurotic. It's just that my threshold is higher than average. It takes a lot more. It takes a lot more to trigger negative emotions in me. But then once you know, maybe because of my medications and stuff like that, right? But once I've been triggered, I have very, very strong reaction to it. So I'm more neurotic than other people. My threshold is higher. So this is just not hitting my threshold, right? And I'm just kind of sitting here watching everybody else that's kind of seeing who it bothers and who it doesn't. Well, it'll all blow over. I think people will probably be happy in the end. Although I do kind of wonder, like, is that exciting enough for me or not? Because, you know, I kind of laid low for a couple of years with the kids being born and everything. I want to go out and take risks again. But maybe taking risks with the day job is not the way, right? Maybe having something that is boring and consistent again. Maybe some more opportunity to grow, hopefully, is the right way. And I'm taking all of the risk with our investments and our YouTube channel and our trading platform. Yeah. I want to take, you know what? I've been seeing on TikTok videos. I think it's from TJR is I think the guy's name. And there's this video, and I'm kind of wondering if this is like a thing that happened recently, because the videos that I'm seeing are recent, like the comments on them are recent, but I don't see anybody on Reddit talking about it or anything like that. So I don't know if it was like a recent incident or if it's just they're posting them now. But it's basically a bunch of kids LARPing. It's nothing screams LARP to me more than kids holding laptops with one hand and flashing off charts. Like and if it's TradingView, it's even worse, right? Oh man, it's so funny because TradingView really is, in my opinion, bar none, the best charting. I was about to say trading. TradingView is without question the best charting platform available. No question about it. I mean, it doesn't do any of the advanced stuff, but in terms of its ability to go in and pull up a chart of a stock and look at it, it is the best. Well, part of the reason that it's the best is that it's the most accessible. And so it kind of turns out that if you're using TradingView as your primary charting platform, you don't really know what's going on. This is kind of what I've noticed. But man, and with a laptop, because you're just not absorbing enough information to day trade with a laptop. Maybe swing trading. You've done all of your information beforehand. You've got automated stuff going, and then it tells you need to get in, and you just, you know, do the entries real quick, and maybe you could do that on a laptop. But day trading, like, come on. You need headphones. You need to hear what your new squawk is saying. You need to be looking at multiple correlated assets. You need to have price ladders up and looking at the orders. It's just not serious. So there's these kids, and they're all being boisterous and rowdy and everything, LARPing about trading. And there's this one guy, and he's talking about order flow. And so he's like showing them order flows. Like, look, see, here's the volume profile, and here's the VWAP, and I'm going to take a trade. And And I don't know, in the video that I saw, it looked like it was kind of starting to work, but I think that like in the end he got blown out of the trade and looked bad. But that's not order flow. I'm sorry. This might be a hot take, but VWAP and volume profiles are not order flow. And I'm sure that even many of my most dedicated viewers will disagree with me on that. But there is absolutely zero empirical evidence behind using volume profile or using VWAP as, you know, or even like how far away we are from the VWAP or things like that. There is not any like peer-reviewed study on that. So think about that for a second, okay? Like VWAP, like, this is pretty big, right? It's been around for a long time. It's been around for decades. They first started using that in like 1988, I think it was, okay? And nobody's ever produced a study showing alpha from it. Yeah, it's not really order flow. To do order flow, you need to look at the orders. And the way that you do that is a price ladder, a DOM, depth of market. You need to be looking at all the orders. You need to be looking at both the market orders and the limit orders, and the limit orders canceling. And you need to know, you know, are the market orders the aggressors, are those buys and sells? And like what percentage of those are the things that, like, when you look at the literature, that they have proven alpha with is a study on the orders themselves. So I say, you don't have a DOM up, you're not really doing order flow. Maybe a footprint chart. Maybe a footprint chart, but actually this is a good one. So let me show you something we do. Claude.ai. And then you come in here and you push this plus button and make sure that research is clicked on. Is there any empirical research, empirical peer reviewed research showing alpha derived from footprint charts? Okay. Footprint charts won't appear by name in journals, so the real question is the underlying signal signed volume / bid ask imbalance at price levels. I don't like that it's taken that approach, because there are some things like bid ask imbalance is one thing that there's some research on, but I don't think really is footprint charts, right? But let's let it run with it and see what it gets. Vital with oil below 90, time to buy short term. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't think that I can really predict for that. You know, when it was when it was first taken off and it was at like 74, I was kind of like, you know, I would like to get in. But I think it's too risky and I don't really know what it's going to go, you know? So it was kind of more like my intuition thinks that it's going to go up, but you know, I don't think that I can take a trade on that. And it went up. It went up. So I guess I should have done it. But here at 90, I really don't know. I'm really not sure. And here's the issue. Here's the issue. Is I think there is a high probability of more intense action in Iran this weekend or next weekend. Like, Trump is thinking about it, whether he's going to pull the trigger or not. And I think that a major part of the operation will be attacking this other uranium nuclear facility that Iran has. And they've got a ton of military hardware around it and everything. I think that they could come in. Just kind of reading between the lines from the reports that we've got from Axios and everything, it sounds to me like they've been proposing a plan where they strike all of those things and then they put boots on the ground so that people can go inside the facility and blow it up from the inside. Which would be a pretty dangerous operation. Probably American lives would probably be lost from an operation like that, right? So if that's going to happen, I mean, that's maybe kind of like the extreme case scenario. I didn't say that like I think that's going to happen, but that's like the extreme scenario. Should we call it the worst case scenario? I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't want to try and attach that it's good or bad to it. That's the extreme scenario. And I'm pretty sure that they are talking about it. Little skeptical that he will go for a plan like that, but I'm pretty sure that it's been proposed. Okay. Let's say that does happen this weekend, right? You could see escalation like that, and then afterwards, it's like, oh, okay, well, like they've done the worst thing that they can possibly do. There's nowhere for this to go but de-escalation, you know, and so. You see a big spike when things open up again on Sunday, but they could be right back at 90 very quickly after that. So that's where I feel like that at 90, I don't have this intuition like, oh, it's going to keep going. It's going to go to 100, 110, 120. I really don't know because even if I have a pretty good layout of how the conflict might play out, it's uncertain to me how strongly oil will actually react to that. Especially since you've got this thing going on where it's like, I'm not even sure the Iran war is like the biggest factor anymore. Like there's other things going on too, because there's the Houthis. The Houthis are attacking ships. And there's all this stuff happening in Russia. So we need to be better with oil, don't you think? What do you mean, like taking trades on oil? I don't know, man. Oil it terrifies me. I've had nothing but bad experiences with oil. I take that back. Probably my best trade ever was on oil, but that was only after I totally got destroyed by it. So like in the end I made more than I lost, but I made the money and then I was like, I should say more. Because that one was when oil was really low, and I said, oh yeah, this is as low as it can go. I want to swing it long here. So I tried swinging it with futures and it just didn't work. So then I got in later with options, and over the course of the options, oil did come up, and I made, you know, all of it back and more. But then the thing is that the options expired, and the next month after that was when they went into Ukraine. So I actually missed the really big payout. That's been oil for me. So I tell you what, man, when you use Claude with the research thing on, like a research mode, it really researches. You see this 253 sources and counting. It's still there is no way that you can come in and like match that cut. Like it's doing a year's worth of research for you all at once. And it's going through all of these papers and it's saying, okay, Is this an empirical peer-reviewed article? And is it actually about a footprint chart? So, yeah, this is doing some good research for us here. I'm interested to see. I mean, I think it's going to say that footprint charts don't work, but I'm wondering, because it was saying how much buy versus sell volume occurred at a single price. I think that maybe over a short time frame, there might be some interesting things that you can pull out, but like how much buy versus sell traded at that price over the last 30 minutes, I'm really, really skeptical that there's anything to that. Well, so we haven't talked about. Oh, you know what? I should start another one here on Claude, because there was a question I wanted to ask it the other day, and I never did it. So I'm going to do that one over here. Research. Look for empirical peer-reviewed research about financial market flows, specifically on Fridays. It seems the flows on Friday are particularly difficult for me to predict. There must be some flows specifically on that day that I'm not aware of. Oh, hit my limit. Hit my limit with that. Okay. You want to hear what it says about footprint charts? NIBEX open, washed out my CL long. You chickened out. Okay. Your report on peer-reviewed empirical evidence for alpha from footprint charts is ready. It concludes that no peer-reviewed study demonstrates net of cost alpha from footprint charts or their building blocks, cumulative delta absorption, stacked imbalances, and reviews the adjacent literature on order flow imbalance, trade classification error, Q imbalance, deep learning, limit order book models, VPIN, HFT latency arbitrage, day trader profitability, and the technical analysis base rate. The report covers work, blah, 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 and closes with concrete testing recommendations. This time it said, hey, like 95% of day traders that tried to trade lost money. Are you getting frustrated answering these questions from me, Claude? You want to just be like, yeah, just don't trade, Seth. I'm just reading here. I don't want to start reading the whole thing and boring you. Oh, of course. So here it says something. Technical analysis base rate is weak. After correcting for data snooping, chart rule outperformance largely vanishes out of sample. So now I remember. I read this study a long time ago, and I just didn't remember what it was. This guy, he put together 2,800 technical signals, like a ton of technical signals, and tested them all over a data sample. And you know, when you test that many, there's going to be some that show that they were profitable or something like that. So then what he did is he says that's data snooping, right? You remember what data snooping is, right? It's like going out to a barn with a shotgun and shooting at the back of the barn and then finding where there's the most holes and asking somebody to stand there with an apple on their head. Are you going to go and stand there? Probably not, right? That's data snooping. So the way that he corrects for data snooping is he says, okay, how much alpha are we showing here in this data sample? And now I'm going to switch it to a different data sample, something that's out of sample. And how much alpha do I see in that one? And the alpha completely disappears. So outperformance vanishes out of sample is the way that the LLM puts it. Let's see here. The foundational weak link trade classification error. Footprint charts split each of ours volume into traded at bid versus traded at ask, where the data feed provides an exchange aggressor flag. This split is accurate at the tick level, but the interpretive leap that aggressor side reveals informed intention is exactly what the microstructure literature undercuts. Oh, this is a very good, there's making a very good point here, actually. Right? All orders have impact regardless of why they are submitted. And if you come in and you assume that every market order is informed, you're going to misinterpret the market. I do kind of think that in some instances, you can determine that some order was flow, some portion of the order flow was informed, like after the fact. And there's some situations where you can be informed and you see the flow be, you know, as it starts. And that's when you want to take a trade. Lee ready remains a standard inference algorithm. Report 31% trade level misclassification using extemporaneous quotes, falling to 21% with a 1 second quote lag. Daily aggregate misclassification nets to near zero because errors offset. A crucial point, classification error is worse precisely at the tick bar granularity footprint traders operate at and averages out only over long horizons. Okay, so that is maybe doesn't matter depending on what kind of data you have, right? Like when you get it signed from Rhythmic, my understanding is that that's completely accurate. But back with Oman and Safaya. See, I'm not familiar with that one. Short sells are systematically misclassified, pushing effective error rates well above the classic 15%. Yeah, that's interesting. Futures specifically, bulk volume classification underperforms tick-based methods on aggressor accuracy. Easy, Lopez, and Prado and O'Hara say in discerning information from trade data that in modern high-frequency markets, the aggressor side of a trade is little related to any underlying information. Okay. Well, I don't know. This is kind of weird thing because, like, you know, we don't pay attention to the majority of the market orders, right? The majority of the market orders we think are noise. But, like, there are some situations where, you know, you pick up on certain market orders and it's kind of like, But if you don't know that, if you don't have a piece of information, I don't know if you can really tell whether it's informed or not informed. Just from looking at the data, probably not. Contemporaneous impact, not prediction. Where real short horizon predictability lives and why it's not yours. Q imbalance is a one tick ahead price predictor. Deep learning on the limit order book. Yeah. VPIN and toxicity. The HFT arms race has claimed the fast signal, probably. Participant level evidence due discretionary. No, we don't care about that. Of course, we know that most day traders fail. Next, concrete next steps. Separate impact from prediction in your own testing. Demand out of sample and multiple testing discipline. Benchmark against the null and against costs. Right size expectations by participant type. Proprietary edges are unobservable. Horizon and participant, yeah. See, so the other thing that I'm really interested in, it sucks that, well, at 11 o'clock, my usage. But is that only on here, or is it going to be over here too? What is worse, a loss or a missed profit? A loss, of course. You know, it maybe depends on what your problem is, though, right? Because you're going to get two groups of people. You're going to get one group of people that really take a lot of risks. Okay? And for them, every loss matters a lot, right? Because what they'll do is they'll hit it big, and then they'll keep going and blow it all. Or they size up and they blow it all, right? Versus the other side of the thing is the person that is just terrified to trade all the time and never takes a trade even when they know they have the edge, right? So for them, the missed profit, you know, is their biggest problem they got to solve. Well, most people's biggest problem is they don't have alpha to begin with, but what you gonna do? Well, now I kind of regret asking it about footprint charts, because I want to know about Friday order flows. Oh wow, it committed it even? Okay. Okay. Okay, Klon. All three phase 0 spikes are now closed, committed, and pushed. Okay. What's left? ICS parser. Request front month wiring. Granular mode, disk cache, subseries band. Don't want to trade 15 minutes before the open. Well, so for our 32 tick trade in the NASDAQ that we are manually testing, no. Oh, what was that? I'm noticing that my... Oh. Introducing Keylight Air Mark II. Improvements and bug fixes. All right, fine. I'll install the update. I saw that movement between the DOMs and was like, what? Okay, anyways, for our 32 tick trade, I've got to see getting filled on both sides in a relatively short time frame for me to want to take a trade, right? So, and I've been finding that the pre-market action is just not enough. For if I was taking a swing or a trying to do a longer horizon kind of a trade, then I think that getting in kind of more towards the top of the hour could be really good. Unfortunately, I don't know if I really have a solid read on what the flows are going to be today. You know, the overnight news and everything is kind of, the overnight moves are all just kind of a little bit like maybe just settling back in after what happened yesterday. And it's a Friday, and we have had a notoriously difficult time predicting flows on Friday. So do try a one tick trade on oil. Why do you want me to trade oil now? If I try a one tick trade on oil, I'm probably almost certain to lose. Oh, it opened up in the background. Let's fix that. That's funny when I visit Claude, it says, "Hey, early bird," so it knows it is. I'm always up at this time. You know what, man? Like earlier in the week, I had a few nights where I was trying to put the kids to sleep and everything, and I was up really, really late. So I kind of turned into, screw it, I'm just gonna go to sleep. Because part of the issue is like, sometimes I'll go to sleep and then my wife will get resentful at me for not helping put them to sleep. But now it's kind of turned into, they just want to play like it's a vacation anyways. So, okay, they're up till 12 o'clock, whatever. They were doing nails last night late. So I just go to sleep early. Well, not early. I go to sleep at the time that I should be. And what happens is I wake up 30 minutes early before my alarm. So I'm early bird, huh? Yeah. I think there's probably no single greater edge that you can find that you can make in life than waking up early. You wake up early and work on your personal project. You're so far ahead of everybody else, man. Insane. I wish, like, if I didn't day trade, if I wasn't building my trading platform, I would still wake up early. I don't know what I would do at that time, but I would still wake up early. Maybe do a lot of reading. I don't know, but if you do a lot of reading, then the temptation is to go back to sleep. It has to be something active. I have to be programming of some sort. That's just thing I like to do. Just noticing that my volatility lines are all not adjusted because I left the charts open, and sometimes when I do that, it doesn't get the level. Oh. Okay. That's interesting. Wait, why is it giving me the ding? It did. You heard the ding too, right? I'm in Europe. My early is your late evening. Yeah, I don't know if it's always been this way or not, but like I've just come to an understanding lately of how much of the streaming audience is in Europe and in Germany in particular. Ooh, which reminds me, I know the other thing that I need to do. Hopefully I have enough going on with the plot to see this. Trying to debug the license server thing again. Is it 50% of my viewers? I don't think that I can see that, actually. Let's try. CoffeeZilla was right about Mr. Beast. Okay. Analytics. See, there's like audience metrics. But I think that that's like through the whole, like my whole audience. Oh, actually, whoa. Okay, so when it comes in here, wait, how can it be 30% is from the United States and then everything else is like hardly any? Okay, well, that didn't help anything. But if I come to live, 30% United States, 1.7% Germany. India and Sweden? Wait, who is watching me from Sweden? Sweden is an interesting place. I need to learn more about Sweden. It is what's with all of the, Swedes are really good at pop music. Well, let's not say pop music. They're good music producers. What's with that? So many good music producers from Sweden. German, I tell you what, man. German music producers? Because there's a lot of really good music producers from Germany. But it's like a select few. Most of the music that I see coming out of Germany these days, I'm like, what the F are they doing over there? Like, the hard techno thing has become really big in Germany, and I'm like, Opera and IKEA from Sweden. So I used to really like hard techno, like the hard techno section on Beatport, and it's recently become a lot more popular. And when I see the community that listens to hard techno, I'm like, I'm not gonna play that. I'm not gonna do that. There's always this thought in my mind. One of my problems now, when I make music, it all comes out trance. And the issue is right now with trance, it's kind of gone back into one of those slow periods where you try to do anything new and everybody hates you and they don't like it. And I want to do something new, but then not necessarily that my music is super innovative. I'm trying to be, but I don't think that I really have it. Like, there's something so different that it's like practically its own style now. No. Anyways, so then I'm constantly thinking like, oh, like what actually should my style be like? I'd like to be this. I'd like to be that. And it changes every day. And then I never make a conclusion and like go all in on it. I'd say recently that I've been most into wholesome rhythm. Like the San Holo stuff. Oh, so his new album is so good. So good. Like I want the things that are like really wholesome and happy and kind of like a little bit like hyper and overdone. You know, like Porter Robinson, I think is really, really good at that sort of a thing where it's just they are trying to max out your senses with happiness. That's what I like the most right now. But I still really, really like really dark drum and bass. And I really I feel a need to like put some sort of an edge into all of my music. It's just anyways. Oh, by the way, what over here on the dollar index is that? It just doesn't look right to me. Ah, yeah, that's better. Amir says only deep house there, progressive house. Dude, I remember when deep house was the big thing. It was a certain style of deep house too. But that didn't last very long, did it? Porter Robinson progressive house? I would say that at this point though, like if you see Porter Robinson live, that he really transcends genre. And he is really more about a particular like flavor or feeling that crosses genres. Because he'll play like I would even say like hard style stuff in there. And he'll go between really wildly between BPMs too. He's got range. Probably more range than almost any other artist on the circuit right now. Although it could be proven wrong. It seems like an oil day, long oil on pullbacks and short anything else. Well, I mean, oil is up and it's on the rise here and the equities are selling off here, but here's the open. I'm going to get the ding. Okay. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to turn on my financial juice. Okay. So we've got the open going on here. And so far, it's been a really tame one. Well, that's that one. Kind of sucks that I missed that one because I'm not seeing another spot as good as that one was. So let's let it do its thing. It looks like they want to trend up. The oil is kind of pulling back, so that might be driving some of the buying. It's Opus is saying some things in this conversation that appear dead wrong to me. I'm wondering if Opus is just not capable of solving this particular problem. Maybe right there? No. Okay. Oops, let's clear our volatility levels. So what I'm getting is that we're like vastly underperforming volatility right now. Oh, hey, open. That came back quick, didn't it? So right there, there is clearly a spot, but it's a little bit hairy, right? Sick. So I was able to play that one a little bit better, noticing that there was some absorption there, but that it was going through it. And so taking it one step past the absorption instead. So it's doing it there again. It's doing that there again, but they're continuing to push. So they're pushing back into the minus extended session -1 sigma again. So I'm kind of curious to see. There's some absorption right there. Looks like they may have busted through it. Sure is a lot right there. I don't think that I can take advantage of that spot though. for starters, the short-term trend is a little bit too unclear, and they're pushing through on both sides of this a little bit too much. So the range there is a little bit too wide for me to do it. Well, it's very curious that there is significantly more absorption, especially on the bid, but on both sides, really, right here around that extended session -1 sigma on the NQ. Granted, the levels that we're going to get from the S&P 500 are going to be a little bit different. We're already well below the -1 sigma in the S&P 500. Are you trading S&P 500 PMI? Oh, the one that you're talking about here in 30 seconds. Well, you wouldn't want to take a trade into it, but let's see here whether the S&P services PMI or the S&P PMIs are not as influential. So and then 8 o'clock, we got the new home sales, which is also kind of, well, that one might be a little bit of a deal in the treasuries. There was some pulling and everything for all of that. Look at how much the treasury absorbed on that, though. That's unusual for the market makers to absorb that much on a news event. Like 4,000 at 06? Huh. So that immediately has me on alert. There is a large buyer out there in the treasury. I totally forgot about that. Yesterday's video got a takedown notice for using Stream Beats by Harris Heller, which I know that Harris would never submit a copyright claim for people using his music. So I think that somebody is trying to claim his music as theirs and stealing it. So I disputed it, but I don't know if YouTube even sees it when you dispute it like that. All right. So there's the treasuries doing a before she goes extension. They absorbed at the high and then they pushed it through it, and now you're getting a continuation the next tick up after that pretty quickly following that. The SPOOs seem to be pushing up, although I would say the NASDAQ isn't following as aggressively. Well, I don't know about that one. Oh, hey. It was real quick. That reminds me, I saw a post on Reddit yesterday. You know, it's funny. I hate the trading subreddits on Reddit so much, but I feel like they're getting better, and I'm seeing more interesting stuff on them now. But the thing that I saw yesterday that was interesting was this guy. He was scalping, essentially, and the prop firm that he was trading with had a rule against scalping. Basically, like, if you're not in the position for more than 5 seconds, then it doesn't count. So they and the crazy thing is that they don't stop your combine or track any of that stuff. They wait for you to request the payout and then they tell you. That's so dumb. You know what? Like, I often wonder on this thing, like, I don't really like the prop firm business, so I really have much interest in starting my own prop firm, unless I can find some way to make the interests of the prop firm and the interests of the trader more in alignment. But at the same time, if I could find some way to provide a better prop firm than the other firms out there, I suppose you can do it. You know, like, you put the rules out, everybody knows what they're doing, right? It's just that most of these prop firms, they're like scamming people and stuff like that. So like if I was doing a prop firm, I think that it would be if you make the money, you get the payout no matter what. And how can I do it that way? Because my systems, my technical systems, will be so effective that if a trader breaks any of the rules, it will immediately tell them. In Forex prop firms, you can't open and close under 30 seconds. Yeah, so in this instance, I kind of think, hey, if we did have a minimum holding rule, which I kind of understand why they might have a rule like that. Because the simulators that the prop firms are using are not accurate enough. You can game them on short time frames, and people are figuring that out, right? So if I had a rule like that, and you had a trade that lasted less than 30 seconds, the system would immediately tell you. And I think in that instance, we shouldn't say that that will blow your combine. We'll just say that one doesn't count, right? Why not? Well, we could do that. The reason why these other prop firms don't do that is because they don't know the tech that allows you to do that. I could provide you a prop firm system that gives you live feedback that like recalculates these things 10 times a second. We could do that. We could do that. Well, the NASDAQ fell hard there, man. Like, I think about it, like 32 ticks is actually pretty wide and everything, but like it moved there. Wow. How does that look on the volume profile? Okay. Okay. Yeah, they fell down. They fell through there. In this is the ES, right? So there's still some overnight levels below us. But the flow, like, look at that. This last 5-minute candle here on my 5-minute chart. Like, look at this shift in cumulative delta. Like, selling really came through there. Oh, you know, was not paying attention. What was the number? You know, I remember when the number came through, but what was the number? Services PMI 53.6 versus 51.5. That's a strong number. Manufacturing 53.8 versus an expected 54.4. So weaker than expected, but still a strong number. Okay. The treasuries, by the way, through all of this, haven't really backed off at all. I don't know. You know what? I've found that I really cannot watch the order flow in two unrelated instruments at the same time. Like, I can watch all of the treasuries here together. I can kind of see that. But I can't watch, like, the treasuries and the NASDAQ at the same time. I can see what's going on here in the treasury. There's clearly some buying coming through here. I'm a little bit skeptical of this, though. Like, so if we come back over here. Oh, wait. Chart. Do you see where, like, okay, so here was the news. It was a very negative. Then there was this other little move down here that was negative. And then since then, we've moved up. So that kind of looks like pressuring shorts. Maybe some trapped traders there, but there was some pretty good delta there was a decent amount of buying through it. So that to me is not necessarily indicative of like a strong informed flow or a persistent flow, let's call it. So or a large meta order. So let's just kind of chill. The NASDAQ is coming up to its extended session -2 sigma. Wait, am I reading that right? Oh, you know what? I need to reload it because it doesn't have the regular session labels on there yet. Come on. There we go. Okay, so we're at regular session -2 sigma right now in the S&P. That makes a little bit more sense because it was kind of like they appear to have paused here. I might. Thing. Darn. So,
Block buy.
Oh, okay. That's good push in the treasury. I noticed something on that one, which was that I got filled, and then it kind of made the push, and it didn't quite fill me on the other side, and then it quickly came back, and I was immediately like, oh, I want to scratch that. I want to scratch that. But if I had put it at the exact break even, it wouldn't have worked. So I might have been able to have taken a smaller loss. If I had it more granular, I might have been able to have taken a smaller loss there. But with the way that I'm trading it, can't do that. You need the cold DOM. It's why is it essential? I don't. Oh, I need to come back over here to the right screen. Oh, so you missed that trade. Oh, I'm mad that because I kind of want to go back and look at that. Oh well. I took all. So I'm 2 wins, 1 loss. A little worried that they're going to go further here, though, in the S&P 500. Like, why? Okay, well, the new home sales 1.6 versus 4.8 expected, and a previous reading of -7.3. So new home sales are still just dismal. Like, the treasuries are buying up pretty strongly now. This is a pretty strong move. They haven't completely washed out the shorts, so there might be a little bit more left to it. I could maybe... Oh, okay, so 11 was one spot. So that means there's probably more, huh? Oh, why are they pricing 5.36 today? That's the calendar I used to have. Bookmark that. Bookmark and research. Okay. Earnings calendar today, July 24th. American Express, Verizon. No big text. That's kind of weird. Well, maybe I should be getting on board here in the treasury because, so I did all that stuff to clear it and then it didn't. There we go. 15. The next step. Oh, and the S&P is already bounced off of that regular -1 sigma. Well, in the NASDAQ at least is where it was. Well, I don't like that. Oh yeah, I'm being really ADHD today. Like too many things going on. What would the value would the gold bomb bring to me, right? Like if there's a flow coming into golds, I don't think it's going to affect very much else, right? A flow in the treasury and a flow in the S&P 500, that affects lots of other things. So that's why it's important to have those on. Right now, oil is pretty influential, so I think it's useful to have oil up as well. But there's never a situation where like gold is a dominant factor in the market, right? So unless I'm going to trade it, I don't see any reason to put it up. Anything that I need to see, I could see from a chart and maybe cumulative delta, although last time I looked at cumulative delta in gold, it was a little iffy. And they're reloading there at the high again in the treasury, man. Maybe they really will get it to that 15 before we're done here today, because it's just not. They're not holding back at all. A pretty big iceberg too. Well, it's possible that they break through that iceberg and that's the end of the trend. And let's see here. That little bounce in the NASDAQ looks short-lived. Okay, so there they got through the iceberg. Yeah, so now you're getting a little bit of this low latent liquidity behavior at 12. Yeah. Yep. Okay, there's a 1,000. So I'm not really interested in the treasury anymore. They're likely to, they could ramp it here, but significantly less likely. Like they're probably going to pause here for a while. And we can watch the spoos could bottom fish here. Nope, see, didn't like that. Scratch it, let it go. Okay. Oh, come on. Yes. You know what I need to do is I need to just make a huge deal, absolutely massive deal over every time that I take that little 32 tick scalp in NQ. You know, like when it comes out, be like, oh my gosh, did you see that? Oh, did you see that? I don't think I could do that. I think it would mess with my trading too much. I can already feel myself getting excited. I want to take another trade. Oh yeah, I want to click. It makes me want to click so bad. And then if it was a loser, what should I do if it's a loser? Should I just be like, nah, it's fine, we'll get it next time? Or should I really like, oh my gosh, guys. Oh, that was so bad. Oh. I don't know, oh, that was such a disaster doesn't affect me as much as like getting excited about it does. I'm an excitable person. That's what it is. So like one of the things that I'm kind of realizing is like, okay, am I sensitive to negative emotions? I really think I am, especially when it comes to people. Like, I will get this thing where it's just like, I'll have an interaction with somebody and I immediately know. It's like they recognize me as ADHD and they don't like it. And they're going to be a problem in the future. And that upsets me. Or when I, like I really want somebody's attention and it's hard to, because you know that like really going all out, that like people don't like that they're like, oh, they want my attention too bad, that's low status, I need to get away from that. Ugh. Right? So that's where I feel I experience the negative emotions the most, even in situations when I shouldn't. Like, oh no, I don't think my wife likes me anymore. Oh, there's a spot right there. But like I said, for most other things, like my threshold is higher. Like I don't feel I react to the negative emotions more, but my threshold is higher. Maybe perhaps because of my medications, right? But then on the risk-taking side, I just don't really feel like I'm living life. Which is to say, like, what are you here on this earth? What are you doing if you aren't taking risk? You know? I think back when maybe I shouldn't talk about this. Well, I already kind of brought it up, so I'm going to talk about this. When I first got divorced and I met a girl that I was interested in, and I was like, okay, should I, like try and talk to her on Facebook, or should I wait? Should I wait until, like all of the divorce stuff is kind of worked out and yada, 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 right? And I remember one day, just, I don't know why, but I just came to the conclusion that I should go for it. I should just do it. Should do what I want to do. Should seize the day, sort of a thing. So I did it, and this girl started talking to me. Now, that ended up being a very negative experience. in some ways, not of any fault of hers. A little traumatizing for me. And so I kind of, after that, kind of said, that was a bad idea. I shouldn't have done that. But now that I'm so many years past it, I think of it now, and I'm like, well, first of all, if I had waited like 4 months to reach out, to do anything on Facebook, I don't know if I would have even seen her again or noticed her again or talked to her. You wouldn't be able to just out of the blue message them on Facebook. Like, yeah. So I don't know if I would have ever even have really gotten to know that girl. So what was it really? I took a risk and it didn't work out. And I don't feel ashamed anymore for that risk not working. You know? Now I realize my desire to take risks is so much higher than almost everybody else in the society right now. And I think that one of the biggest problems is that people just don't want to take risks, and they should. Like, not taking risks is a risk. Probably the worst risk you can take on. Which of your wives are better? Oh, man. What kind of a question is that? Of course I prefer my current wife. Of course I prefer my current wife. But neither of them are perfect. My first wife was a little crazy. You gotta understand. She would do lots of things that I think most people would be like, I'm not gonna associate with that person. They do things like that. Okay. Like, as an example, I didn't know this before I married her, but before I had married her, there was one day somebody did something to her on the road, like cut her off or something like that, and she was and like flipped her off or said something to her. I think he said something sexist to her, and like catcalled her after cutting her off, and she was so mad that she rammed her car into him at the stoplight. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? That's kind of like if a girl you were dating told you that, you would kind of be like, I don't know if we can be together anymore. Right? Which is why she didn't tell me. Obviously, right? But you know what? I am so much more and maybe it's because of her. Maybe it's just my old age. But you know, I can remember many times thinking about people and being like, you know, I can see the way that person is and I don't like it and I don't want to be associated with that, right? And I think about people in a much more balanced way now, right? Like, people that tend to take risks have a certain psychological profile. That's why they're driven to take risks. And the upside of that is they can become fabulously wealthy from the risks that they take, and they learn a lot. That's the other big thing, is you learn a lot more faster you take the risks, right? But those people also tend to make really dumb decisions in their personal life, like cheating or doing something illegal, financial fraud, things that's they just do that stuff. CEO of the company I'm working for that's moving out, he said the meeting we had yesterday, I'm a little bit too much to handle. I'm not coming along with you. Yeah. Yes, because he's ADHD, right? You take risks, you're a certain type of person. And I think that some people are kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to, you know, like anything that he's ever involved in, I don't want to be a part of that because he's just so stupid. And I'm kind of and I'm sitting here like, all of those stupid things that he did, like controversies that came from that, are like reasons that I would invest with them. They take risks. And if you take risks with them, you're probably going to come out on top on a long enough time horizon. That's totally with the way that it was with my first wife. Like we did things, like how far I got in like doing the DJ thing and the connections that we made with volunteering for political campaigns, things like that, we did well. You know, like, if I was still married to her, I kind of wonder sometime, like, maybe the channel would be bigger. Maybe the channel would be bigger. She would love to get on
Block
stream.
cell.
My current wife, she hates the, well, I mean, if she's all done up, then she would get on camera but she doesn't love the attention. She's not an attention seeker, right? There's advantages to it. In the end, it got to the point where I decided I couldn't trust her anymore. But I didn't end it. She did. She was the one that just all of a sudden one day decided, I've got to go. I need to do something. She was impulsive. That's really what it came down to. She was impulsive. She was impulsive. My current wife is like the exact opposite, right? And for me, that's a much better thing. It's a much better thing. Paul says, yeah, I've been here a lot. I don't think I've ever seen her face more than a few seconds at most. Well, at least live. I'll show you pictures. But did you remember that thing where we hold on. Okay, NATO is saying that Romanian fighters shot down a drone in Romanian airspace. That's curious. Market's not reacting to that though, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Do you remember that thing where we where I used ChatGPT to looks Max her haircut? She needs to go and she kind of cut her own bangs, so I'm kind of like, maybe we wait a month or two for an opening to come up or something. Actually, maybe not. Maybe it needs to do it in the summer, because when else is she gonna do it? Today would have been a good day. That headline costed me $50. What, in oil? I don't know if anything actually reacted to that. The spoos are looking like they're gonna test the lows again though, so this could get interesting. You know, it was kind of interesting because I feel like the biggest problem in my family life right now is bedtime, and I think that my first wife would probably be even worse on those sorts of things. So win-win, I guess. But that wasn't the point. Normally, I probably shouldn't get that personal, right? The point of that was, some people have a propensity to take risks, and some people are impulsive, and it seems to me that there's something about that is kind of built into people, and people have a tendency to think, that's bad. You shouldn't be like that. But really what it is that there's positives and negatives associated with that, and their journey is dealing with that. And who are we to judge them? So, let's see here. With the way that the equities are kind of turning in on themselves. So do you see this on a 5-minute chart where it's blue, red, blue, red, or sorry, blue, orange, blue, orange? It's turning back on itself a lot here. Okay. It's turning on itself a lot here, and I'm getting a lot of good volume nodes in it. So I think this is relatively positive action to trade. But there is a little hint of volatility in it that has me a little bit on edge. Like that this could turn into a bender day at any second. I just kind of got that feeling that, like, you know, they decide that they're going to go for more than the regular session -1 sigma and just tumble. Or that a headline's going to come through. Because my news squawk is starting to talk a lot again. Oh, what was this? I missed this. Just a car through a bar, though. Not that much in Illinois terms. She's normal. Is it? Okay. That's funny. Yeah. I'm kind of interested because I would have thought that she would be the kind of person to start a TikTok or something, and she never did anything like that. But I think the other thing is my first wife has been having crazy health problems, man. She made bad health decisions in her 20s. I think, well, I don't know, man. Yeah, I think going back, if I was to do everything over again, the things that I would care the most about are 1, secure attachment, and 2, health. And like when it comes to health, I would be asking questions like, do you drink soda? Do you know, like how they eat healthy, they have regular exercising habits. That makes a huge difference. Didn't enjoy the colorful loopy mind magic chemicals. No. Every once in a while, TikTok tries to pull me on to druggy TikTok, and I'm like, nope. So there's all these people on TikTok that want to talk about how people see spirit guides when they're on DMT or whatever. And like, well, maybe we just have a tendency to see these things, or maybe you're actually visiting another dimension where these things actually exist. And no. Next video. Think about values. Company got bought, new company, they have values. Their value is courage instead of integrity. Courage instead of integrity, which I think I prefer integrity, to be honest with you. But there's some nice things about courage. You kind of can bring courage in, and that's good. I think, though, like, what are my values? Are my values integrity, excellence, and teamwork? Well, yes, but, like, isn't that everybody's values? What are the things that are unique to me? What are the things that are unique to me? Well, I think the things that are unique to me versus other influencers, at least, is empiricism, take risks. Yeah. Empiricism, take risks. Health, I guess. It's your religion, and you would hate something against your religion. It shows you that other people hate politics. TikTok shows nothing but that. Funny, right? It's good. Well, no, it's not that. I think the thing that I dislike about it is when you take something that is like, we're talking about information and everything, and then you try to inject this non-empirical thing on top of it, you know? Like, okay, we did a study, and a large portion of people have similar experiences on these drugs. That's interesting. But then your theory is there's another dimension. We don't have any empirical support for that. And how would you prove that? And unless you have some sort of like path that we can start going down to like empirically test that theory, I'm gonna scroll on. It's the same. It's the same thing when they start talking, because like I'm super interested in this like ancient Egypt and Sumerian texts and what are in their texts and things like that. But then it always turns into some stupid conspiracy theory. Hate that shit. Just tell me the facts. Just tell me the stuff that we've actually found and can prove and stuff, right? Or then there is on that field, there is the other side of it where these guys did that LiDAR study and they said there's this stuff underneath the pyramids, and then everybody's like, no, dude, they've got data. Yeah, why are you all ignoring the data? I don't get it. Do we believe in empiricism or not? I feel like that I believe in empiricism, and that most of the people in the world don't actually in their hearts believe in empiricism. Empiricism is just a weapon that they can yield when it's convenient, right? I think I'm running out of space because we've got too many saved videos on here. So we go clean it out. When was the last time we cleaned? Oh, come on. There's not that many in there. The last Joe Rogan episode was about ancient civilization. Oh yeah, oil below 90 now. I don't know. I kind of think that it's just could be random. I don't know if there's any. I don't know if I. So well, okay. So I can tell you one thing about this chart. So again, like, look at how hairy it is. There's like big wicks. The candles are very relatively big candles, and they overlap a lot, right? So even though the oil market is trending down, there's lots of activity, but there's not like a clear imbalance in it. So I don't see strong, and you're not seeing like a, high auto correlation and cumulative delta. That's the thing that really, really matters, right? By the way, here in the treasury, we should analyze that one too, right? Here was the news and everything. These guys, they went short. They got offsides. So what happened? They traded it back. When the orders equalized, it went dead. So I think that one was trapped traders, which is actually kind of an interesting situation. Like, I mean, they got trapped. Usually it takes way more than that to make a move like that in the treasuries. But maybe it's more prone to doing that sort of a thing because it's a Friday. I don't know. It's incredible to learn true brain chemical responses into why it happens like that. So yes, for real, guys, like, all crackheads are the same, no matter how much they think they can differentiate. Oh, wait, what did they tell you they're different? That like they're not going to destroy absolutely everything around them? I don't. You got to read the three together. There are amazing studies on a bunch of drugs and how they affect the mind. I would love to talk about it. For example, crack always makes people think God, aliens, or the government is watching. This is because crack affects 3 certain parts of the brain which cause paranoia, bigger picture, and also a third one. So they all become paranoid that God or aliens or the government is watching them. It's incredible to learn true brain chemical responses into why it happens like that. So yes, for real, guys, we're all the same no matter how much. Oh, and that is interesting. That is interesting. Well, it's just this thing that like, and I think it's a Christian culture thing. I think that the Christian culture idea of it is that all of our decisions and our thoughts flow from our spirits. And so if we choose to do something, and our spirits have agency. So if our spirits exercise their agency in a way that is negative, then their spirit is bad, or vice versa. And I think that at this point, the science pretty much directly contradicts that. So personally, I still believe in a spirit, right? But if there is some spirit in there that is like the part of us that has the agency, the ability for that, or maybe you could say that it's the brain. Maybe it's just the brain. The brain is making the decisions, right? The brain is not completely in control. There are chemicals that are going on. There are things that are going on in your environment and stuff that influence that. And that, so what happens is you get yourself into one of those situations where you're being influenced by the environment. Like, the most common thing that's going to happen to you is you're sleep deprived or you're hungry. And so it changes your behavior, right? And if that behavior is very, very likely to continue until you get some sleep or you eat, right? Like, it's the same thing in trading. Like, if you have a high neuroticism, that I think can really hurt you in trading, and especially in business. That, like, you don't make the right decisions. Like, one little thing goes wrong and you fall apart. And then you don't want to take risks anymore. Like, if you're going to take risk after risk after risk, and you're going to come in and you're going to play multiple seasons, or the guy yesterday was talking about, like, it's like football, and sometimes this season just doesn't go right for you, and you have to try again next season, right? And that if you're the high neuroticism person, you don't handle that very well, right? Then you're probably going to struggle at this, and you're going to have to, you can't just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to focus on my mind and my spirit and choose to not be that way. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. You have to take actions now and create systems to influence you in the future in those moments. Right? Hence things like, if you're a trading platform, one of the things we need to build in our trading platform is a risk control center. I set it up. You have 3 losses in a row. It cuts you off. It stops you from trading, or at the very least makes you go through like a really long process to force you, to breach that if you really, really choose to, right? Because you're going to get in that state where you want to just keep trading and revenge trade. And so you need to have something external to you to stop you. Vital says it seems like there were smarter creatures before humans with a larger head to fit larger brains, and they So are you saying that you think that maybe it was like one of the related humans species like Denisovans or Neanderthals that built the pyramids, actually? That's an interesting theory. But I don't think that holds up, because we do have like hieroglyphs and things like that from that age of the pyramids. It just doesn't do very much to illuminate, how they did it. But I do think that it's enough to show that they were just humans. You know what I would... So, if I was Elon Musk, okay, And if I was Elon Musk, I probably wouldn't be the richest person in the world. Like, I would get like super fabulously wealthy, but I would probably do more of what Warren Buffett and Bill Gates did, which was over time, sell a lot of it and put it into like charities and other kinds of ventures, you know, go beyond business. Because like, listen, the money is best in a business. Okay. You get a gain on it and it helps people more. Okay. But we need all sorts of things. So some of it should go to charities. Some of it should go to these things, right? And maybe some of it should just go into vanity projects. Yeah. I think, you know, there's some interesting history that like nobles back in the day and stuff, you know, they would have projects. They would have vanity projects. They would often call them folies. They'd call them folies. And it would be like, we're going to build a really, really pretty tower in my garden or something like that, right? And then you would pay some poor philosopher guy to live in it. And this was a folly, right? And that's where the word folly comes from, because they were usually extravagant wastes of money. But it turns out that those extravagant wastes of money like benefited the local economy. that it was kind of like, well, we can't think of anything really valuable to do, so let's just build the tower, and that's where the economy comes from. Like, this is the thing. I think it's an interesting concept, because like maybe in the future of AI we're going to be doing stuff like that. I really kind of wonder, like, is there a point where, because everybody's trying to do some sort of a startup right now with AI, and I feel like they're all kind of being, you know, LLM, what is the word where you're like, you're hallucinating and the LLM is like inducing you to do dumb things, right? Psychosis, AI psychosis or something like that. They're all like doing the same ideas. But shouldn't there be a point at which like every good business idea that AI can do has been done, and there's no more edge to gain, and the people that have built businesses, they've got businesses, and everybody else doesn't have any opportunity at all? Well, maybe not, because there's probably no limit to how great things can get, right? Like, oh, you got all these businesses, yeah, but there's this new colony starting on Mars. You know, maybe it turns into that sort of a thing. But I do think that you could get to a situation where enough of those ideas have kind of been done that people really, really start to feel like there's a lack of opportunity. And in fact, there's a lot of that going on in our society already. So how do you deal with that? You build follies. You build follies. Okay. So if I was Elon Musk, my folly would be to rebuild the pyramids. That's what it would be. I would go, I would want it to be in the same area, you know, so that we have the same conditions and everything. And I would be like, I mean, maybe we could do, you know, each pyramid a different way. Like for the first pyramid, let's build the first pyramid with all of the tools and everything that we have today. The whole thing, you got to get the supply chain, you've got to get the same kind of blocks, bring it in and try and construct it the same way that they did. Not construct it the same way that they did, but like build it out of the same stuff, right? So that it's almost like an exact replica, or as close as we can get, if not better than the original pyramids, right? And then the second pyramid, we can build it using only the tools that they had at the time. And can we prove that it can be built with these hand tools and stuff like that? Because I think that it can be. I don't think that we would build it exactly the way that they did, because there's no real way to know how they built it. But I've seen some crazy stuff where it's like you can balance you can balance a bold monolith on a tiny little rock, and that allows you to move it around with actually very little force. Like if people like really put the money into it and paid all of the labor and all of this sort of stuff, I think they could do it. All these conspiracy theorists, they say, you know, it had to have been aliens. There's no way we could not build the pyramids today. I disagree. I think that we could build it, and I would love to prove them wrong. You know? Yeah. Okay. What do you got here, Paul? People still don't know, understand, and can't understand that we have brain cells in our stomach that give the brain signals, huh? But that's oh yeah. Well, and a lot of neurochemicals come from what we eat. So a lot of the issue, I tell you what, man, like if you get depression, are you eating well, sleeping well, and exercising are the three things. I'm not going to say that if you do those three things that you're never going to have problems with depression. Okay. But I have never met a person with long-term persistent depression that was consistently doing all those things. Larger skulls mean nothing. Have you not met real life Neanderthals? They exist. I want to live where you all live. It sucks here. And on a real note, to help take away from larger skulls, we don't know that the dinosaurs had feathers until recently. We were entirely wrong with what they sounded like and can recreate some now, as in we have been repeatedly wrong about so many small details over and over, and act like different species aren't allowed to exist at the same time. For example, all pterodactyl remains come from one period. The pterodactyl is shown as the only bird in the past. Realistically, there would have been over 1,000 species over time. So many birds now, lots of ways. I don't think you mentioned it yet. What were the claims or quotes with how many forced workers died on that project? Was it generations again? I wonder how many people working. Oh, I don't know, man. I've never heard anything like that. How did they know the exact dimensions of the Earth and the Sun and the Moon compared? The pyramids are math oh yeah, that's actually there's a very simple answer to that, Vital. Because the sextant existed before we invented it in the 1600s, and they used that to measure everything. So the reason why the ratios of the Earth and the Moon and the stars and everything are reflected in the pyramids is because they were using the Earth and the Moon and the stars to measure it. And they had, ancient people had very accurate ways of measuring things with this. So, one thing that's really interesting, for instance, is that the position of the pyramids corresponds to Orion's belt. But they don't correspond to Orion's belt today. They correspond to what Orion's belt was when they built the pyramids. Isn't that interesting? So, whatever religion and culture that existed basically in that the Egyptian period where the pyramids were built and before that, all of the stuff that we get, they were obsessed with the stars. They were obsessed with it. So they measured these things very accurately. So you have like your device, you're pointing it at the star, and you put a post down, and that's one corner of the pyramid, and then you know, you say, okay, I want it to be this many degrees away from that. And so you walk until your device shows you that, and you put the post there, and they can measure it to like within like a sub-foot accuracy or something like that. And so when you do that, just the nature of the measuring device that you use kind of builds the ratios of the Earth and the Moon and all of that into it. And that's why it's like that. This is one because I see people say that, like talk about that on TikTok, or I used to a lot. And it's so weird to me that I never see people say that. I guess it's because it's kind of heretical to suggest that ancient people probably had something similar to a sextant. We use a sextant to like determine where we are on the Earth and where we need to sail to. Okay. They were using this thing to measure things, but it had to have been a similar device with similar principles. Almost certainly existed. There's just too much evidence in the way that they laid things out. It's either that or they really did have technology before the Ice Age and we just don't see it. The same types of ways people in the future first discovered the Earth was round too. They had some pieces of glass measurements and had all day and every single day of their lives. Like, really, think about how much you would get done if you didn't have YouTube and TikTok. Like, it would be really interesting to see societal productivity if we had all of the same technology that we had today, but none of the entertainment. So nobody would sit and watch YouTube or television or listen to the radio or podcasts or anything like that. Okay? If you wanted entertainment, you had to talk to people and play games with people and go to parties or whatever the deal was, right? How different would our society be if it was like that? And because, I really think most people just sit and veg in front of the TV. And if you didn't have that, yeah, you would probably do thinking. And people today with the technologies and everything that we have, I think a lot of people would do a lot of crazy stuff. This whole idea though that like maybe there was civilization before the Ice Age or whatever, I also find really interesting though, because like everything that we've been told is that like humans have existed for like tens of thousands of years, and we only have history going back like maybe 10,000 years, right? Is it 10,000? Yeah. So like, what were humans doing before that? And we're told that they were just hunter-gatherers. So you're telling me that humans were hunter-gatherers for like 50,000 years before this most recent period? I find that hard to believe. I really do. I find it hard to believe that there wasn't civilizations and technologies before that are just, you're never gonna find. They're all under the ocean and destroyed or something like that. Right? Why do you find that hard to believe? Because they were the same people. Like, the genes are not that different. Like, we are not inherently smarter than humans were 50,000 years ago. It was entirely a function of the culture and the technology available to them at the time. So I just don't see how you come along and you have all of this stuff and culture and tools and everything, and you don't do anything with it for 50,000 years, and then all of a sudden civilization changes. It doesn't make sense to me. If they were the same as us and they were just as smart as we were, then they would have gotten bored and they would have started inventing technology and stuff. And so I believe that it is plausible that there were civilizations that existed before that died out. I don't think that anybody ever got to the level of like semiconductor technology per se, but they probably knew some interesting things. Grunting doesn't get you. What makes you think that they were grunting? What evidence do we have that humans 50,000 years ago grunted instead of having language just like we do? I don't know. Like, don't we even have like pictures in caves from humans 50,000 years ago? Like, Vital says it's a nice session so far. You know, for a Friday, it's been pretty good to me. What did I end up with in the end? I could still be messing with it. I kind of, well, we kind of started talking and maybe I just got distracted, but I kind of didn't like this thing. Like I like to see it coming in on itself, but this kind of was like impulsive moves both ways. Very kind of trendy action, and that makes it kind of hard for me to kind of pull that 32 ticks out. So you know, I kind of left it. But what did I get? I think I still got +3. Maybe it was just +2. No, that was yesterday. Oh yeah. Plus I had 3 winners, but I had 1 loser, so it was +2 today. Not bad. And yesterday I lost 3, so, and then earlier in the week there were all gains. So I guess I came out of the week. Well, I wouldn't be able to show the whole week because there'd be that huge big one, and then that would overwhelm everything else. So I wouldn't calculate it correctly. But now that we have that to be able to put that on a different account, we can still take swings and not screw up all our stats. There was no solid languages, but how do we know? That seems like a statement that would have empirical evidence behind it, and I can't fathom how we could possibly have empirical evidence that would tell us that. Right? How would you prove that people didn't have language 50,000 years ago? Their sound waves aren't here anymore. Maybe someday we'll find something where like somebody was dragging a stick in the mud 50,000 years ago and the sound vibrations got encoded into that mud, and then we can play that recording back and hear what somebody 50,000 years ago was saying. And so maybe something crazy like that could happen, but probably not. What do you think the language just popped up? Boom, we're born, language exists now. No, I think that there was, I would say that language probably existed before we were what you could consider humans. So I think that our progenitor species, if we're looking at this purely from an atheist's perspective, I think that progenitor species that were apes but were not genetically considered humans yet probably had language. So once you get to the point that they are genetically considered human, language already existed by that point. And the reason I think that is because there are very clearly regions of the brain built just for speech. When you have autism, you can't speak. It's because those parts of the brains are the parts affected by autism, right? Like, so the speech must have evolved along with our brain. Ergo, if there is some point in time at which we can point that 50,000 years ago, at least at that point, and maybe even before that, we can look at their genetic code and see that they were basically the same as we are, not really materially different from us. That means that they had similar brains. Then that means that they almost certainly must have had language. I can't prove that with empirical evidence, but that makes logical sense. 50-year K time frame you're talking about, get it now, it doesn't just start, it has to be essentially agreed by others too. Well, I am just throwing a number out there. I don't know what is like the earliest. Okay, so let's ask ChatGPT. What is the earliest human genetic material that we have that we could consider human and not some progenitor species? Let's see what number ChatGPT gets. There are 3 different milestones. The earliest DNA from the genus Homo, the earliest DNA from Homo sapiens, and the earliest genome that is genetically indistinguishable from modern humans. Oh, okay. The oldest authenticated DNA from anatomically modern humans is 45,000 years old. That is from Homo sapiens. The most important genomes include the Usht-Ishim individual, lived shortly after humans left Africa, has relatively recent Neanderthal ancestors. Sayek Kun individual, one of the earliest known modern humans in Europe, represents an early migration that apparently left little genetic contribution to later Europeans. These are generally considered the oldest well-preserved genomes of unequivocal Homo sapiens. What about older humans? We have fossils of Homo sapiens much older than that. One from 315,000 years ago, one from 230,000 years ago, and another from 160,000 years ago. Unfortunately, DNA rarely survives more than roughly 100,000 years under normal conditions. Warm African climates are especially destructive to DNA. So although these fossils are much older, no usable genomes have been recovered. The earliest DNA from human lineage. If you broaden human to include other members of the genus Homo, then we have genomes from Neanderthals dating back 120,000 years, Denisovans 100,000 to 200,000 years ago, and the few earlier hominin fragments approaching 400,000 years ago. Okay, so if the oldest human genome we have is from 45,000 years ago, then does that mean their brains were essentially identical to ours, including structures for language, and that humans 45,000 years ago had language? Let's see if the academics have considered this. Yes, in fact, the evidence strongly supports the conclusions that humans living 45,000 years ago had language that was fundamentally like ours. There are several independent lines of evidence. Their genomes are essentially modern. The people whose genomes we have from 45,000 years ago weren't almost human, they were fully Homo sapiens. If you could somehow bring one of their babies into the present and raise them in a modern family, there's every reason to think they would learn English, Mandarin, or any other language just like any other child. Genetically, they fall within the variation of living humans. 2, their brains were essentially modern. Their cranial capacity averaged around 1,300 to 1,500 centimeters cubed, right in the range of modern humans. More importantly, fossil skulls indicate that by this point, the frontal lobes were modern in shape, the temporal regions associated with language processing were modern, and the overall brain organization appears essentially the same as ours. We can't fossilize neural wiring, but there's no evidence of a fundamentally different brain architecture. 3, the genetics of language were already present. One famous gene is FOXP2, which is involved in speech and language development. Interestingly, modern humans have the modern version. Neanderthals also had the same protein coding version. Denisovans appear to have had it as well. Oh, okay. So they're saying that that if it really is just that one gene, that, well, it's probably not just that one gene, but if we were to say if they had that gene, they probably spoke language, then probably Neanderthals and Denisovans hundreds of thousands of years ago also had language. Okay. Or their behavior strongly suggests language. By 45,000 years ago, humans were making tailored clothing, constructing sophisticated tools, building watercraft in some regions, creating cave art, carving figurines, making musical instruments, flutes over 40,000 years old, maintaining long-distance trade networks, and organizing cooperative hunts. These activities require transmitting complex information across generations. Imagine trying to teach someone how to make a bone needle or coordinate a mammoth hunt without language. While gestures help, the complexity of these technologies and social organizations strongly suggests a rich spoken language. 5. Language almost certainly predates 45,000 years. Many anthropologists now think fully modern language may have originated somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 years ago, although the exact timing remains uncertain. Their reasoning is that all human populations have equally complex language. Humans had already spread across Africa before leaving it, and the people who left Africa around 60 to 70,000 years ago likely already possessed sophisticated language. If language had evolved only after humans dispersed around the world, we'd expect to see deeper biological differences among populations than we do. Oh, that's a really effective argument. They're basically saying, well, when you look at different groups of people, those different groups of people split off like tens of thousands of years ago. And yet they all have similar sophisticated languages, which means that language had to have evolved before that. Their language would almost certainly sound unfamiliar, which is to say, like, if language only evolved 20,000 years ago, then why are Africans and Asians both have language? I think that's what it's saying. Could we have a conversation with them? Probably after learning each other's language. Their language would also almost certainly sound familiar and share no vocabulary with English, but their cognitive capacity for grammar, storytelling, abstraction, humor, planning, and teaching was almost certainly comparable to ours. So while we couldn't understand their words any more than we understand an unknown modern language, there's little reason to think they lacked the mental machinery needed for language. In fact, many anthropologists argue that if you took a newborn from 45,000 years ago and raised them today, you likely wouldn't be able to distinguish them cognitively from any other modern human. Biggest differences would come from culture and education, not biology. So that's a bunch of information from ChatGPT that you would have to verify, but it does reflect some things that I have heard before from supposed experts. So if language existed 45,000 years ago, why did it take so long for us to develop some of the technology that we did? Seems to me that probably there are some technologies that were invented multiple times, and civilizations that, you know, periods of civilization, large, pretty much like 4/5 of our actual history lost. Now, where I think it gets crazy is when people think, oh, they were probably just as advanced as modern humans are, and there's just absolutely nothing left of that civilization left. Like, maybe they had the ability to levitate rocks, and that's how they were able to build the pyramids. And that's where I think it starts to get a little bit silly. But humans evolved fats once they started to eat omega-3 foods. Now, many devote not eating vegan omega-3 supplements. Oh, yeah, this is so weird. As it seems to me like humans are supposed to eat fish, which is kind of weird because, like, not everybody likes fish. Those people must have been having some great deep chats about what they should really do with humanity next. Such deep contextual thought and speech. If anything, boy, we really failed our ancestors. Stuff's bad. We're not just differentiate like symbols of language to complex language. No. Well, I mean, it kind of, the thing that we just read did kind of talk about that and say that they were probably just as capable of grammar and all of those things too. So when did language start becoming normalized and standardized to more set like language that we know now as an oh, well, okay, so I think that probably people had large vocabulary, grammar, the ability to talk about concepts and things like that, because as it said, like they had trade networks and things like these, things that you really would need to have fully complete language to do, right? But I'm going to bet you that back then that you know, it would be like you would go to a village that was a couple days walk and they would have a different dialect to yours. It would take a bit to learn. And, you know, you wouldn't have to go very far before people were speaking a different language, probably. Depending on how isolated your population was. Yeah, y'all know you can't understand people from just a couple centuries ago, right? Oh, yeah, totally. You can't understand English, yeah, because it evolves so much. Anyways, so that was 10 minutes on why didn't ancient humans evolve civilization faster? Without people talk and argue about it, sometimes it really makes it sound like people are almost claiming that the people of the past nearly had a set language. No, but I kind of think that they, well, so
Block by.
oh, hold on, what is going on here? The treasuries are moving up. There must be some really good news on oil coming out. Okay. Pakistan and Iran are pushing for new talks with a push spearheaded by China. So I think if you say like a set language where it's like, you know, there are textbooks with all of the grammar rules and everybody in the country are taught the language, that certainly that didn't exist. but could people within the same tribe or from tribes in a similar area explain complex concepts to each other? Yes. Okay, well, that was interesting. The treasuries definitely jumped up. They were at 11. They jumped pretty far. So maybe we're not going to get any action this weekend at least. But we went pretty far and then we slumped back a lot. The S&P 500. When I look at NQ, I'm kind of like, this didn't move as much as you would think it is. But when you look at oil, oh my, oil got slaughtered there. They went from 90 to 88.80. So they lost $1.20 there. War in Iran is bad for China. Yes. Because you think about all of this oil, because let's take a map and let's make sure that what I'm saying isn't stupid here. Okay. So, here is the Middle East. And here are the two Gulfs. So anybody that is producing oil in these areas, right, they want to come through the Gulf and out to here, right? And what's happening? They've blocked these. And so what's happening is they're just piping all of it up and over through here. So who are the parts of the world that are actually being harmed by the oil not getting to them the most directly, at least? I mean, it hurts everybody. It kind of affects the markets everywhere. But like, it's just like when you, with money printing, the actors closest to the money printing benefit the most. The actors closest to the supply disruption are going to be hurt the most. And where is all of that oil going? It's going this way. It's coming out here around India and into China. So this really, really sucks for China. And China, sure, they want to hurt the United States, and war in Iran is kind of beneficial to them. And maybe, the United States getting bogged down in a war hurts the United States, and China likes that, which is why probably to some extent they've helped the Iranians in the past and stuff. But this conflict is so harmful to their economy that they want to end it. Wow, now they're really moving. Trump says something. Okay. Trump says that when he spoke to Xi, he promised him that... Trump says that when he spoke to China's President Xi, Xi promised to not sell Iran weapons. Why China can't be friends with the US? They would basically rule the world. Prisoner's dilemma. They want to increase their power economically, and by doing so, that's a threat to the United States. Just that alone puts them at odds. Okay, so there's regular session plus 1 sigma. I should have taken it there when it went, and it came back, and I was kind of like, okay, this isn't too much. And then I should have been like, I think this is going to keep going. We could get to the regular session plus 1 sigma. Let's do it. No, it's because I want to end things. It's time to get going. Well, what about the spoos though? Where do we get to go to the spoos? Oh, we're in a pretty good spot in the spoos too. Although, I feel like that news and the way that the market is reacting to that news is so positive that it is entirely possible that we could get to plus 2 sigma today for that 2-day in the S&P 500. And that would put us at 75.23. Let's say 75.25 just to have a really nice round number to talk about. That would maybe be the next upside in the SPOOs if we get that today. But it's a Friday and I don't like trading Fridays. So I felt like there was something else we was going to talk about or wanted to do. We didn't talk too much about my trading platform. Hey guys, I am making a trading platform. If you have rhythmic data, I would like you to alpha test my trading platform. Please hit me up on Discord today, especially today because I don't work today, so I'm going to be here probably working on it. And so I could help you and try and debug your issues because when you try alpha test my platform, you're almost certainly going to have issues. All right. Otherwise, I will see you on Monday. Oh, and I'm going to make some TikToks today. Got to make some TikToks today. So check in for those, huh? And then I'll see you Monday. Stay excellent.